Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Monday Minute with me, Phil Gephart of Gephart Strength and GephartStrength.com. As you can see by the sunshine, it is another beautiful day here in Austin, Texas. This week we'll be doing part 2 of our inflammation series. Last week we touched on how to measure inflammation, looking at CRP in the blood. A way that I like to loosely measure is do you have soft, malleable fat, or is your fat really dense and thick when I try to pinch you? Even though it might be a small pinch, if I feel that really thick, hard fat, that's a really good indication that you have some inflammation going on in your body. We talked about stop putting logs on the fire regarding inflammation. So getting rid of the anti-inflammatory foods, mainly gluten, grains, and dairy. And then we also talked about supplementation in terms of curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric. You can also use that in your food, as well as fish oil, and more specifically EPA fish oil. Also up your veggies and water content. That will also help to dampen the inflammatory response. So here we go. Let's go 1 minute on the clock, and we'll talk about inflammation for another minute, and probably actually a lot longer. So here we go. Another one you want to avoid when it comes to inflammation is sugar and fructose, or high fructose corn syrup. What a lot of people, especially in the fitness industry, don't realize is the inflammatory response that can happen from all the artificial sweeteners like sucralose, aspartame, and acesulfame potassium. Those are in a majority of the fitness, exercise, supplementation, pre, during, and post-workout stuff. So look for those. Avoid them at all costs. Another thing regarding inflammation is it raises your cortisol. And cortisol is another word that's thrown around a lot lately. It's the, quote, stress hormone. But when inflammation is in your body, it will raise cortisol. And when cortisol is raised, it will lower thyroid hormone. So a lot of these misdiagnoses of thyroid or hypothyroid, again, that can trace its root back to inflammation, like a lot of the other diseases we talked about last week. It's already a minute. We're going to keep going, though. Another thing you want to do is really maximize your sleep, quality and quantity. I don't say 8 hours, I say 7 to 9, because everybody's a little bit different. You need to wake up, hopefully without an alarm clock, and you need to wake up feeling refreshed. So even with one specific person, 7 hours one day might be enough. But if you had a long day, a hard day, you had a hard workout, you might need that 8 or 9. So you need to get 7 to 9 hours, and there's plenty of studies out there that say so there's these things called cytokines. They're proteins that basically aid in cell signaling. And there's a lot of research that says CRP is elevated in men and women who don't get enough sleep. Also, another one of these cytokines is called interleukin-6 or IL-6. That was also elevated in both men and women when they were sleep deprived, as well as TNF-alpha was also elevated in men specifically when they were sleep deprived. So sleep is critical when trying to combat inflammation. NSAIDs are very common nowadays, over-the-counter prescriptions to fight anti-inflammatories, or to fight inflammation. NSAID stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So I recommend avoiding those. When you need them, if there's a specific instance, don't feel bad about taking them, but they can actually, one of the side effects is they can actually cause inflammation. So in certain situations, I'm not saying you should always avoid them. Sometimes they're good, and modern medicine has served some really good purposes, but don't take them every day. Don't take them even frequently if you can avoid it. And then you really need to exercise hard. And I'm going to put a link below about to Dr. Mercola's website, but he has a couple some really good information on high intensity exercise, and obviously that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. So HIIT training, high intensity interval training, or just simply interval training, quantitatively. So over time, that actually leads to a lowering of chronic and systemic inflammation. Now, it can cause immediate inflammation because of what you're doing to the body, but over time, it will help to lower inflammation. And because strength training affects even more muscle fibers and creates even more damage, so to speak, at the muscular level, and creates more damage in more cells, interval training and intense training with weights, strength training specifically, can actually help dampen inflammation even more so than interval training you're doing on a bike or a stair mill or a treadmill, things like that. So keep that in mind. And then something to consider is a lot of people know they need to work out hard, but so many people don't recover as hard, if not harder, than they work out. So, and a lot of people have bad relationships with exercise. Exercise really hard. Get in the gym, do your workout, get out. 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Body, actually said to the minimum effective dose is 3 times a week for 20 minutes, but go as hard as you can. So if you want those benefits, the health benefits like we all want, 20 minutes, extremely hard, 3 times a week. With my workouts, they typically last 45 to 60 minutes. We do go very hard depending on the day. We'll work different body parts or different styles of training. And then we will recover as hard, if not harder. So enjoy those days off. Make sure you get your sleep at night. That's another form of recovery. Naps are great. And then just make sure that that recovery process is there. So work hard, get the exercise in. That will help dampen inflammation over time. But make sure that you're recovering and don't overtrain. So that is a nice little 2-part series on inflammation. Maybe we'll hit a 3rd part and go even more in depth in terms of the actual chemistry and the actual physiology, what's going on, underlying issues there. But hopefully that helps you. And let's fight inflammation and let's make this world a healthier place. We'll see you next week.